They told us the war would come with missiles, that it would roar through the skies with fire and steel. But what if the real war, the one that matters most, arrives quietly, in the form of a letter from immigration, a sealed file in a church basement, or a silent knock in the middle of the night? In the shadows of American bureaucracy and ancient ecclesiastical halls, something is stirring, a strange alliance, rarely spoken of, yet unmistakably active. The United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, long accused of enforcing harsh borders, now appears to move in perfect rhythm with an institution far older and more secretive, the Vatican. But why would a government agency concerned with visas and deportations partner with a religious empire known for gold, rituals, and millennia of buried secrets? Some believe the answer lies in blood, not just any blood, but ancient blood. Blood that carries a divine or fallen spark, bloodlines that trace back to the Nephilim, to David, to the forgotten priests of Melchizedek. Blood that prophecy says must be silenced before the final trumpet sounds. And so, beneath the surface of politics and compassion, a darker purpose may be unfolding, a campaign not just to remove people from nations, but to remove them from prophecy itself. As we descend into this investigation, ask yourself, what would the beast do to erase those who could expose him? They say borders are just lines on a map, but what if those lines are part of an ancient strategy? One not to protect nations, but to protect something far older, far more dangerous. In recent years, the rise of aggressive deportation policies in the United States has drawn global attention. Yet while most see a political issue, immigration, crime, border control, few stop to ask the deeper question, who benefits from these forced removals? And why do the whispers behind closed doors always circle back to the same two powers, Washington and the Vatican? Operation Exodus isn't just a name we've given this phenomenon. It's a code, one rooted in the biblical narrative of the Israelites' escape from Egypt. But unlike the liberation that marked the first Exodus, what if this modern Exodus is a form of spiritual captivity? What if certain bloodlines, those carrying ancient codes, memories, or even genetic markers, are being tracked, filtered, and forcibly displaced? At the center of it all stands ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Officially tasked with enforcing immigration law, ICE has grown into a powerful arm of the federal government, with access to unprecedented levels of biometric data, surveillance networks, and international cooperation. But underneath this framework lies something far older. According to leaked memos and insider testimony, select individuals within ICE have been working closely with private Catholic networks, organizations that, on the surface, appear to be offering humanitarian aid, but may in fact be mapping family trees and ancestry for purposes unknown. You see, the Vatican has never let go of its obsession with bloodlines. From the Merovingians to the so-called Sangreal, the Holy Blood, it has maintained silent archives, hidden vaults, and vast networks of genealogical data. Why? Because within certain families lies the residue of what they call divine inheritance, or to others, tainted legacy. These lineages, passed down through centuries, are said to carry not only the traits of ancient rulers, but perhaps the very essence of something pre-Adamic, something Nephilim. And now, in the name of immigration control, the U.S. has the perfect infrastructure to track, isolate, and remove anyone whose presence might disrupt a coming world order. Have you noticed that many deportations seem oddly selective? That certain families disappear completely from public records? In some cases, ICE agents seem to bypass local courts, targeting individuals not for criminal behavior, but for what appears to be ancestral profiling. These are not crimes, they're bloodlines. There is a growing belief that Operation Exodus is not being managed by political forces alone, but by a shadow council of religious and intelligence operatives. The Vatican's own Jesuit networks, operating through affiliated NGOs and religious shelters, have allegedly shared lists of high-priority targets. These aren't simply undocumented migrants. They are descendants of lineages that certain elite circles fear or perhaps revere. The United States through ICE has become the sword, the Vatican, the mind. Together they are cleansing the map, but not for purity, not for safety, for prophecy. If this sounds like a shadowy alliance, it's because it is. In 2014, a set of documents surfaced on a deep web forum known for whistleblower leaks. Buried in a file labeled Domus Custodes, House of the Keeper, was a list of surnames marked Class Q. These names didn't belong to high-profile figures or known criminals, but to individuals of obscure heritage, often traced to regions with ancient Semitic or Coptic Christian roots. The Vatican denies knowledge of the list. ICE never acknowledged it, but months after its emergence, many of the individuals were quietly deported, some to countries they hadn't lived in for decades. We must ask ourselves, What is the purpose of such removals? Is it about population control, or is it about sealing access? There are theories that certain family lines carry within their DNA a code, literal or symbolic, that can unlock prophetic triggers. These aren't just metaphors. Ancient rabbinic and Christian mysticism is filled with warnings that the end times would be signaled not only by war and famine, but by the return or reawakening of the blood of the Watchers, those fallen beings who corrupted mankind in the days of Noah. What if these people are being removed not because they are dangerous, but because their presence threatens the deception? To most, ICE is just a government agency. But to some insiders, it's become known as the Silver Division, a code name passed between retired agents who claim that special units within ICE have been trained in more than just enforcement. They've been taught how to identify spiritual residue. Some wear rosaries not out of faith, but as talismans. Others have been seen using old ritualistic prayers before conducting arrests. It's not just about law, it's about spiritual warfare. And what of the Vatican? It maintains hundreds of properties throughout the US, many of which serve no public-facing religious function. What are these sanctuaries for? Some speculate they're used as holding sites for those temporarily disappeared until their records can be sealed or erased. Former Catholic charity workers have spoken of midnight relocations, carried out with no paperwork, no names, just numbers, as if a quiet purge is being executed under the guise of compassion. Meanwhile, the mainstream media frames it all as political chaos, another partisan debate. But below the surface, a silent plan unfolds. A plan perhaps foretold by Daniel and echoed in Revelation, a time when those of the true seed would be given into the hand of the beast. But what if the beast doesn't appear with horns and fire, but with drones, visas, and biometric scanners? Every generation has its gatekeepers. But this time, the gate may not be guarding against evil. It may be locking out the very truth needed to awaken humanity. And so, we stand once again at the threshold, facing a world that appears increasingly governed not by truth, but by selective silence. Perhaps the greatest danger we face is not overt tyranny, but the subtle erasure of meaning, the quiet reprogramming of our spiritual instincts. What if the true prophecies are not being fulfilled through earthquakes and fire, but through paper trails and deportation lists, through bureaucratic agencies masked as saviors, through holy institutions cloaked in centuries of secrecy? Could it be that the most sacred truths are not being lost, but actively hidden, smothered beneath layers of surveillance, legal jargon, and controlled narratives? In every age, the guardians of truth were hunted. In every civilization, the flame of divine knowledge flickered in exile, passed through whispers hidden in codes buried in forgotten bloodlines. And now, in our modern era, where we place faith in machines and policies, that ancient pattern may be repeating itself once again. The question is not whether ICE and the Vatican are working together. The deeper question is, why? What are they so desperate to keep from reaching the light? Is there something buried within those who are quietly being removed? A memory, a message, a mark? Could these individuals be the carriers of an ancient spark, meant to ignite the final awakening? Or perhaps the final resistance? And more importantly, where do you stand in this equation? Are you just watching the world unfold from behind a screen? Or are you beginning to feel the pull, the whisper of something old and true calling out from behind the chaos? Maybe it's time we stop asking only what governments are doing, and start asking what we're failing to remember. Because in the end, the final war may not be fought with weapons or votes. It may be a war of remembrance, of who we are, where we came from, and what ancient truth still flows through our very veins. Now, I ask you, what do you see behind the curtain? Let me know below.